They made millions laugh, cry, and cheer. But give them a glass, and suddenly the cameras stopped rolling, the hotels started billing, and the cops got involved. Hollywood might run on scripts, but these drinking stories wrote themselves. Buster Keaton's Hidden Flask. He was known as the Great Stone Face, the man who could crash a train or fall off a building without blinking. What audiences didn't see was that he was often fighting a bottle just as much as gravity. By the mid-1920s, his drinking had gone from social habit to daily routine. When Keaton signed with MGM in 1928, the studio quickly realized his problem. Executives sometimes cut off his access to money so he wouldn't spend it all on whiskey. It didn't work. He kept a flask close by and found ways to sneak liquor onto sets. Crew members later recalled he could perform daring stunts while still tipsy from the night before. On Spite Marriage in 1929, he filmed falls, pratfalls, and stage chaos while barely steady on his feet. Drinking didn't just hit his health, it wrecked his career. MGM demanded polished, scripted comedies. Keaton thrived on improvisation, add the alcohol, and his timing slipped. He showed up late, slurred through rehearsals, and argued with directors who refused to give him freedom. The fights usually ended the same way. MGM won, and Keaton drowned his frustration in more whiskey. At home, things were worse. His marriage to Natalie Talmadge fell apart under the strain. Friends said he sometimes drank from morning until he passed out at night. He admitted later that in those years he had no judgment left. By the early 1930s, he was blacking out for days at a time. In one incident, he disappeared on a drinking spree and was found weeks later in Mexico, broke and sick. MGM eventually fired him in 1933. The studios couldn't insure him anymore. His comedy genius hadn't vanished, but the alcohol made him unreliable. Tallulah Bankhead's gin problem. By the 1930s, her name meant glamour, scandal, and a lifestyle built on excess. Alongside her wit and smoky voice came a drinking habit that quickly became part of her legend. Gin was her choice. Bankhead drank it in the morning, at rehearsals, and on stage. She rarely hid it. Friends joked she could turn a rehearsal hall into a cocktail lounge. Her social circle writers, actors, and politicians enabled the routine. They laughed when she quipped that she had followed the advice of her doctor to avoid drinking water. The joke worked because everyone knew it was true. When she moved into films, her alcohol use clashed with Hollywood structure. On the set of Lifeboat in 1944, Alfred Hitchcock famously said he could smell the gin on her breath from across the boat. She slurred lines, missed cues, and drained her energy long before cameras stopped rolling. Crew members remembered the chaos fondly, but producers saw mounting costs. Her voice deepened and cracked from years of gin and cigarettes. Directors who wanted crisp diction had to fight for usable takes. On stage, Bankhead sometimes forgot lines entirely, leaning on her charisma to carry performances through improvisation. Audiences loved her unpredictability, but colleagues saw the toll. By the 1950s, her reputation was double-edged. She was still a draw, but insurance companies worried about reliability. Productions trimmed her parts or avoided her altogether. Behind the curtain, she was reportedly drinking harder, sometimes consuming an entire bottle of gin a day. The same fire that made her famous left her drained and unsteady. Public appearances added to the story. She turned talk shows into spectacles, downing martinis while firing off one-liners. Hosts played along, knowing ratings spiked when Bankhead stole the spotlight. But even fans noticed her timing slipping. Once a master of rapid-fire wit, she often rambled, losing her thread mid-sentence. Her health broke down fast. Years of drinking and chain-smoking wrecked her lungs and immune system. In 1968, she died of pneumonia at age 66. Doctors cited emphysema and malnutrition, both tied to alcohol and tobacco. Tallulah Bankhead lived loudly on her own terms, but the glass was never far from reach. Spencer Tracy's Morning Shot. On screen, he looked steady, grounded, and in control. Off-screen, alcohol was always breaking through the surface. By the 1940s, studios quietly shaped entire productions around his drinking. Tracy's habit was no secret in Hollywood. He often started with whiskey in the morning, long before the cameras rolled. Directors learned to schedule demanding scenes before lunch, knowing the afternoon hours were risky. Once the liquor settled in, his voice slowed and his movements turned sluggish. The studio line was that Tracy worked best in the mornings. The truth was, they were racing against his bottle. Hotel managers grew used to damage reports. Tracy would smash furniture during binges or vanish on late-night drinking sprees. MGM quietly paid bills and covered scandals, hoping to keep their star on track. In public, he looked polished. In private, he was unraveling. His family life suffered first. His marriage to Louise Treadwell collapsed under years of drinking and absence. Tracy carried guilt but didn't change. He often disappeared for nights at a time, returning in the early hours with little memory of where he'd been. Friends later said he sometimes slept in cars rather than face his family while drunk. On set, his colleagues carried the burden. During Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in 1941, the crew noticed his mood swings were worse after a night of drinking. Some mornings he could deliver sharp, flawless takes. Other days he stumbled, forgot cues, or needed extra rehearsal time. The inconsistency slowed productions, but his talent kept him employed. Directors learned tricks to keep him engaged. Some shortened his dialogue. Others doubled rehearsal time before rolling film. Cameramen often placed marks closer together so Tracy wouldn't drift out of focus while weaving. His performances were powerful, but holding them together took effort from everyone else. By the late 1940s, his drinking caught up with his health. Doctors warned him of high blood pressure and heart strain. He ignored the advice. Instead, he leaned harder on alcohol to fight stress. Colleagues noticed him arriving late, nursing hangovers through makeup chairs, and stumbling through press events. Tracy kept working into the 1950s and 1960s, often brilliant on screen but barely stable once the lights went out. The star Hollywood trusted for steady authority was fighting daily to hold himself upright. Montgomery Clift's downward spiral. He was the face of Hollywood's new generation in the late 1940s. He was intense, brooding, and natural on screen at a time when many actors still looked theatrical. Off-screen, he carried scars no one could see, and alcohol soon became his shield. The turning point came in 1956. Clift left a party at Elizabeth Taylor's house and crashed his car into a telephone pole. The wreck shattered his face. Taylor herself reportedly pulled teeth from his throat so he wouldn't choke. Surgeons rebuilt him with wires and plates, but the pain never left. To dull it, Clift turned to alcohol and pills. His career never fully recovered. On Raintree County, 1957, filmed right after the accident, crew members saw him drift in and out of focus between takes. He slurred lines, nodded off during rehearsals, and leaned heavily on Taylor, who protected him from the press. Studio executives labeled him difficult but couldn't deny his talent. Doctors warned him about his liver and heart. Clift ignored them. He often disappeared on week-long binges, emerging gaunt and unsteady. Friends described him as charming one night, paranoid the next, depending on how much he had consumed. He spent stretches in hospitals where records listed exhaustion or nervous collapse. Behind closed doors, it was alcohol poisoning. His reputation sank. Directors hesitated to cast him. Insurance companies balked. He relied on old friends like Taylor to argue for his place in films. Even then, production slowed to accommodate his condition. On Freud, 1962, he clashed with director John Huston, who complained Clift was too unstable to finish the role. By the mid-1960s, Clift was a shadow of the actor who once electrified audiences in A Place in the Sun. His face still carried the tragic beauty, but his body was wrecked by years of whiskey and pills. He lived alone, increasingly cut off from the industry. In private, he called alcohol his constant companion, even as it destroyed him. Billie Holiday's club downfalls. Her voice carried pain, beauty, and truth in a way no one could copy. By the 1930s, she was already famous in Harlem clubs, and by the 1940s, she was touring coast to coast. But the same clubs that made her career also fed her addictions. Alcohol was always nearby, often right on the stage. Holiday leaned on gin and whiskey to calm her nerves before shows. Bandmates recalled her taking long sips between sets, sometimes walking on stage unsteady, only to transform once the music began. She could be fragile and slurred off stage, then suddenly flawless under the spotlight. The shift became part of her mystique, but as the years passed, the drinking grew heavier and harder to hide. In 1947, Holiday was arrested for narcotics possession, a case that overshadowed her career. While heroin dominated headlines, alcohol was just as constant. She often showed up late to rehearsals or skipped them entirely after a night of drinking. By the 1950s, the toll was clear. Her liver was failing, and her stamina was gone. During performances, she sometimes forgot lyrics or lost her place mid-song. At one show in Philadelphia, she stopped singing halfway through, leaned against the microphone, and told the crowd she couldn't continue. Clubs continued booking her, but the conditions changed. Promoters demanded shorter sets, insurance fees climbed. Some venues refused to serve her alcohol, only for Holiday to sneak bottles in anyway. Her drinking was no longer glamorous. It was survival. Doctors urged her to quit. She didn't. Friends remembered her drinking whiskey in the morning, gin by afternoon, and whatever was left at night. Even when hospitalized, she begged for drinks. In her final years, she was banned from performing in New York cabarets because of her criminal record, forcing her to play smaller venues where the pay was low and the demands were high. On the 17th of July, 1959, Billie Holiday died in a New York hospital at age 44. The official cause was cirrhosis and heart failure. She weighed barely 90 pounds. At her bedside, police kept her under arrest until the very end. Ava Gardner's Whiskey Nights. She was the face of Hollywood elegance, photographed on red carpets and splashed across magazines. Away from the camera, her nights often ended with scotch in hand. The drinking began as a way to unwind, but soon became a defining part of her life. Her marriage to Frank Sinatra only magnified it. The couple's love affair was famous for passion and for volatility. Friends recalled nights of heavy drinking that turned into explosive arguments, sometimes in front of guests. Hotel staff grew used to broken furniture, unpaid bills, and complaints from neighbors. On set, her habit showed. During the filming of The Barefoot Contessa in 1954, Gardner's hangovers became a problem for the crew. Some mornings she arrived hours late, sunglasses hiding bloodshot eyes. Her performances remained strong, but schedules stretched, and tempers flared behind the scenes. Gardner admitted in later interviews that alcohol became her escape. She hated Hollywood's rigid demands and constant scrutiny. Drinking gave her distance, even if only for a few hours. When she moved to Spain in the 1960s, her reputation for long nights of scotch and late mornings solidified. Friends there said she could drink steadily from breakfast until midnight without showing it until she suddenly collapsed. Her health suffered. By the 1970s, she had developed high blood pressure and circulation problems, but she refused to quit. Doctors warned her about strokes and organ damage. She dismissed the warnings and kept drinking. In 1986, she was struck by 2 strokes that left her partially paralyzed. Gardner passed away in 1990 at age 67. Richard Pryor's Cocktail Chaos. His battles with drugs are well known. What gets overlooked is how alcohol fueled the same chaos, especially in the late 1970s. Pryor mixed both freely, and directors who hired him had to deal with the fallout. On Blue Collar in 1978, director Paul Schrader learned just how volatile Pryor could be once liquor entered the set. Tension already ran high among the leads. Pryor was drinking heavily, and his temper sharpened with every glass. One argument with co-star Harvey Keitel escalated so far that Pryor pulled a gun during rehearsal. Schrader later admitted he locked himself in a room at night because he feared what might happen. The drinking didn't stop once the cameras rolled. Pryor often showed up late, sometimes so drunk the first hours of shooting had to be scrapped. Crew members recalled long pauses while he collected himself, then sudden bursts of brilliance that reminded everyone why they endured the stress. His talent was undeniable, but his self-control was almost gone. Comedy clubs saw the same extremes. Pryor might stumble on stage late and start with slurred lines, then snap into razor-sharp improvisation that had the audience roaring. Bartenders who worked his favorite venues said he often ordered whiskey before walking into the spotlight and sometimes carried the glass with him. Fans thought it was part of the act. For Pryor, it was how he steadied himself. Friends saw the darker side. He drank at home alone, often combining alcohol with cocaine. The combination left him paranoid and reckless. By 1979, his health was collapsing. He was hospitalized more than once for heart and liver problems tied directly to his intake. Still, he rarely slowed down. Even after he set himself on fire in 1980 while freebasing, alcohol remained in the picture. Reports from those close to him said he often drank through the recovery, ignoring doctors who begged him to stop. The cycle of clubs, movies, and binges kept repeating. Dorothy Dandridge's final collapse. She broke barriers in Hollywood. In 1954, she became the first African-American woman nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress, thanks to Carmen Jones. The recognition should have secured her future. Instead, discrimination, failed marriages, and financial ruin left her isolated. Alcohol became her quiet escape, and by the early 1960s, it was destroying her health and career. Dandridge never had the studio protection that white stars enjoyed. When her career slowed after Porgy and Bess, 1959, she turned to nightclub performances to survive. Friends and musicians who worked with her recalled that she often drank heavily before going on stage. Some nights she was dazzling, with the same energy that once carried her in front of film cameras. Other nights she stumbled through songs or forgot lyrics, leaving audiences unsettled. Bills piled up. She lost money to bad investments and dishonest advisors. In 1963, she declared bankruptcy. Alcohol was one of the few things she could still afford, and she leaned on it. Associates said she often combined drinks with antidepressants, an especially dangerous mix. The dependency made her unreliable, and bookings dried up. Behind closed doors, her friends saw the decline. She was moody, anxious, and increasingly isolated. Calls went unanswered, and she avoided social gatherings where her drinking might be obvious. When she did appear in public, she sometimes looked frail and unsteady, far from the glamorous star the world remembered from Carmen Jones. By 1965, her health had collapsed. On the 8th of September of that year, she was found dead in her Los Angeles apartment at just 42 years old. The coroner ruled the cause as acute barbiturate poisoning, likely an overdose of antidepressants, but the autopsy also noted organ damage consistent with chronic alcoholism. The official report concluded that alcohol had weakened her system long before the final dose of pills. Dandridge's death shocked Hollywood, not only because she was so young, but because her career had once promised so much. Friends later said her struggles were not just about fame, but about fighting a system that never gave her a fair chance. Alcohol had become her way to numb those battles. In the end, it helped cut short a groundbreaking life. Elizabeth Taylor's vodka breakfasts. By the 1970s, she was also one of Hollywood's most public drinkers. The stories were not rumors whispered in the background. They were splashed across newspapers, hotel reports, and film sets. Her drinking had started earlier. While filming Boom in 1968 with Richard Burton, champagne flowed openly on set. Crew members recalled bottles in the dressing rooms and on tables near the cameras. The pair fed off each other's excess, and alcohol soon became their marriage's center of gravity. Arguments fueled by vodka and whiskey often turned violent, forcing hotel staff to call security. By the late 1970s, Taylor's routine was impossible to hide. Friends described her pouring vodka into orange juice at breakfast and continuing until she fell asleep. The phrase vodka breakfast followed her for years. Unlike many stars, she did not always disguise the habit. In interviews, she joked about her love of liquor, even as her health deteriorated. Directors had to plan around it. On certain productions, her call times shifted to afternoons because mornings were unpredictable. A hungover Taylor could not handle makeup chairs, let alone long dialogue scenes. Schedules stretched and costs mounted. Insurance companies began charging higher premiums for her projects, citing the risk she would not finish. Her friends staged interventions, but they rarely worked. Taylor entered treatment several times in the 1980s, only to relapse quickly. She was admitted to the Betty Ford Center in 1983 after collapsing from a mix of alcohol and prescription pills. Unlike many Hollywood admissions, hers became public, marking one of the first times a celebrity of her stature openly acknowledged rehab. By the early 1990s, her health made continued drinking impossible. Doctors warned of cirrhosis and heart damage. She began speaking openly about addiction, crediting treatment centers with giving her a second chance. But in the years before recovery, Taylor's on-set presence and public image were defined as much by the bottle as by the violet eyes that made her famous. Mickey Rourke's set collapses. He was supposed to be Hollywood's next Marlon Brando. By the mid-1980s, he had the talent, the looks, and the momentum. What he also had was a drinking habit that turned opportunity into risk. On Barfly in 1987, the film based on Charles Bukowski's life, Rourke leaned on real alcohol to stay in character. Crew members confirmed he often drank during takes, not just between them. What should have been stage props turned into actual bottles. The results were uneven. Sometimes the performance looked raw and electric. Other times he slurred lines and had to be nudged into focus. His behavior spread beyond one project. Throughout the late 1980s, stories followed him from set to set. Colleagues described long nights of drinking before morning shoots. Stamina was not his strong suit. He often arrived late, exhausted, or outright drunk. On smaller films, whole days were lost because Rourke could not hold himself upright long enough to perform. The alcohol combined with his volatility. During Wild Orchid in 1989, arguments with crew were amplified by heavy drinking. Insurers raised premiums, making it harder for producers to hire him. By the early 1990s, he was labeled unreliable. The talent was there, but the risk was too high. Offers slowed to a trickle. Rourke himself later admitted he self-destructed. Drinking made his temper shorter and his judgment worse. He picked fights with reporters, clashed with directors, and walked away from roles that might have saved his career. By the time he shifted into professional boxing in the 1990s, many in Hollywood wrote him off entirely. Friends who stuck by him described wild nights in Los Angeles bars, where he ordered round after round until morning. The reputation hardened. Casting directors stopped calling. For several years, he survived more on gossip columns than scripts. It doesn't take a genius to realize that the demands of Hollywood could cripple any average person. But those who succeed are the ones who are not just talented but push beyond the boundaries to make it and are celebrated for it. But the truth remains that some of these Hollywood stars relied on several methods to help them cope. The most popular of all was found at the bottom of the bottle. Sadly, the poison of excessive alcohol caught up with most of these actors. William Claude Dukenfield. He rose to fame as a silent juggler, known for his raspy drawl and sophisticated vocabulary. Despite his on-screen fondness for alcohol, which he portrayed convincingly, the actor surprisingly abstained from drinking until he felt the isolation of constant travel. Eventually, loneliness caught up with him, leading him to keep alcohol in his dressing room and eventually develop a regular drinking habit after retiring from juggling. If there was one role that cemented his reputation as an alcoholic, it was his portrayal of Professor Henry R. Quayle in the 1933 pre-code comedy International House. In the film, he played an aviator with an insatiable thirst for beer, a trait he began to adopt in real life. Like many actors of his time, he sometimes filmed scenes while intoxicated, yet this often added an intriguing edge to his performances that audiences loved. Sadly, his career declined slowly, and he spent the last 22 months of his life in a California sanitarium, passing away at the age of 66 on Christmas. Moving on to another tragic figure, William Holden, a multi-award-winning actor who faced perhaps the most tragic ending among the actors mentioned here. Holden achieved acclaim with prestigious awards such as the Academy Award for Best Actor and the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Limited Anthology Series or Movie. His career flourished with several successful films and roles that made him a beloved figure in Hollywood. However, as the 1960s arrived, he found himself competing with a new generation of actors while his own popularity began to wane. This decline coincided with his increasing reliance on alcohol, a struggle that became an open secret in Hollywood circles for years. Despite his reputation, Holden remained dedicated to his craft, continuing to accept challenging roles until the end. His tragic death occurred on November 12, 1981, when he suffered a fatal fall at home, hitting his head and bleeding to death. The Los Angeles County coroner's autopsy later confirmed he was intoxicated at the time of the accident, underscoring the poignant end to his illustrious career. These stories highlight the complex lives and struggles faced by some of Hollywood's most talented and celebrated actors. Ramon Novarro. Born José Ramón Gil Samaniego on February 6, 1899 in Durango, Mexico, Ramon Novarro rose to fame as one of the leading actors during Hollywood's silent film era. His career spanned from the 1910s through the early talkies of the 1930s, establishing him as a charismatic and talented performer. Novarro's early success was marked by his roles in films such as Ben-Hur, 1925, where he portrayed the titular character with vigor and emotional depth, solidifying his status as a matinee idol. Despite his on-screen triumphs, Novarro battled personal demons throughout his life, notably alcoholism. The pressures of fame and the demanding Hollywood lifestyle exacerbated his struggles with addiction, leading to periods of erratic behavior and personal turmoil. Behind the scenes, Novarro's challenges with alcohol impacted his relationships and career trajectory, often overshadowing his professional accomplishments. Throughout the 1930s, as Hollywood transitioned to sound films, Novarro faced increasing competition and changing audience tastes. His roles became less frequent, and the industry's shift posed additional challenges for his career. Despite attempts to revive his star status, including ventures into character roles in theater, Novarro's personal battles with alcohol continued to hinder his professional endeavors. Beyond his career struggles, Novarro's personal life also bore the scars of his addiction. He grappled with strained relationships and financial instability, further complicating his journey. Despite efforts to seek treatment and intermittent periods of sobriety, Novarro's addiction remained a persistent force in his life until his tragic death. In 1968, at the age of 69, Ramon Novarro's life came to a tragic end when he was brutally murdered in his home. The circumstances surrounding his death highlighted the dark undercurrents of his final years, underscoring the profound impact of his lifelong battle with alcoholism on both his personal and professional life. Marion Davies. Born Marion Cecilia Duras on January 3, 1897 in Brooklyn, New York, Marion Davies emerged as a prominent actress during Hollywood's golden age. Known for her comedic talent and versatility, Davies captivated audiences with her performances in silent films and later in talkies. Her career flourished under the patronage of media mogul William Randolph Hearst, with whom she had a complex and influential relationship. Despite her professional success and charm on screen, Davies faced personal challenges, most notably her struggle with alcoholism. The pressures of fame, coupled with the tumultuous dynamics of her relationship with Hearst, contributed to her reliance on alcohol as a coping mechanism. Throughout her Hollywood career, Davies battled periods of addiction, which at times overshadowed her achievements in film. Davies's association with Hearst, who exerted significant influence over her career and public image, added layers of complexity to her personal life. Despite her efforts to maintain a public facade of glamour and success, behind the scenes, Davies grappled with the private burden of addiction. Her struggles with alcoholism strained relationships and occasionally disrupted her work, reflecting the toll of her dependency. In later years, Davies' battle with alcoholism became a part of her legacy, intertwined with her contributions to early Hollywood cinema. Her story serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities faced by women in the entertainment industry during the early 20th century, navigating between personal struggles and professional aspirations amidst the glare of public scrutiny. Marion Davies passed away on September 22, 1961, leaving behind a legacy marked by her talent, resilience, and the enduring impact of her performances. Her journey through fame, intertwined with the challenges of addiction, remains a compelling chapter in the history of vintage Hollywood. Franchot Tone. Born Stanislaus Pascal Franchot Tone on February 27, 1905, in Niagara Falls, New York, Franchot Tone established himself as a versatile actor known for his roles in classic Hollywood films. With a career spanning from the 1930s through the 1960s, Tone garnered acclaim for his ability to portray a wide range of characters with depth and sophistication. Despite his professional successes, Tone grappled with a persistent struggle with alcoholism throughout his career. The pressures of Hollywood's demanding schedules, coupled with the temptations of celebrity life, contributed to Tone's reliance on alcohol as a means of coping with the stresses of his career and personal life. Tone's battle with alcoholism often intersected with his professional endeavors, impacting his ability to maintain consistent work and affecting the quality of his performances at times. Despite his talent and dedication to his craft, periods of addiction led to sporadic career challenges and personal setbacks, underscoring the toll of his dependency on both his professional and personal life. Throughout the years, Tone made efforts to confront his addiction, seeking periods of sobriety and occasionally receiving treatment. However, the cyclical nature of alcoholism posed ongoing challenges, influencing his relationships and career trajectory in unpredictable ways. Despite these challenges, Tone's legacy endures through his memorable performances in films such as Mutiny on the Bounty, 1935, for which he received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor in a Leading Role. His ability to bring depth and nuance to his characters despite personal struggles remains a testament to his talent and dedication to his craft. Franchot Tone passed away on September 18, 1968, leaving behind a legacy marked by his contributions to classic Hollywood cinema and the enduring impact of his performances. Preston Sturges. Born Edmund Preston Biden on August 29, 1898, in Chicago, Illinois, Preston Sturges became renowned in Hollywood for his sharp wit and comedic genius as a writer and director. During the 1940s, he achieved acclaim for his ability to blend sophisticated humor with social commentary, making him a pioneer in the screwball comedy genre. Despite his creative success, Sturges battled a persistent struggle with alcoholism that cast a shadow over his career. The demands of Hollywood's competitive and often tumultuous environment, combined with the pressures of maintaining a prolific output, contributed to Sturges's reliance on alcohol as a coping mechanism. Sturges's alcoholism affected his professional life in significant ways. At times, his addiction led to periods of erratic behavior and strained relationships with studio executives and collaborators. Despite his creative brilliance, the unpredictability stemming from his dependency occasionally disrupted production schedules and impacted the reception of his films. Throughout his career, Sturges made efforts to confront his addiction, often seeking periods of sobriety and attempting to channel his struggles into his creative work. However, the cyclical nature of alcoholism posed ongoing challenges influencing both his personal life and professional endeavors. Despite these challenges, Sturges left an indelible mark on Hollywood with films such as The Lady Eve, 1941, and Sullivan's Travels, 1941, which continue to be celebrated for their sharp dialogue, memorable characters, and satirical edge. His ability to inject wit and humor into his films, despite personal setbacks, remains a testament to his enduring talent and resilience in the face of adversity. Preston Sturges passed away on August 6, 1959. William Haines. Born Charles William Haines on January 2, 1900 in Staunton, Virginia, William Haines rose to prominence as a charismatic and talented actor during Hollywood's silent film era. Known for his dashing good looks and comedic timing, Haines quickly became a popular leading man in silent films, captivating audiences with his charm and on-screen presence. In the 1920s, Haines's career soared with successful roles in films such as Brown of Harvard, 1926, and Tell It to the Marines, 1926, establishing him as one of Hollywood's top stars. His popularity extended beyond his acting talents, as he became known for his off-screen persona as a fashionable and openly gay celebrity, which was rare and controversial for the time. However, despite his early successes, Haines faced personal challenges that would impact his career trajectory. His struggles with alcoholism began to emerge as a significant issue, exacerbated by the pressures of Hollywood's competitive and demanding environment. As the industry transitioned to talkies in the late 1920s and early 1930s, Haines found it increasingly difficult to maintain his status as a leading man. Haines's dependency on alcohol contributed to a decline in his career opportunities. Studios, concerned about his reliability and public image, began to withdraw offers for leading roles. Despite attempts to continue acting in supporting roles and comedy films, Haines's career never fully recovered from the impact of his addiction. In 1933, faced with dwindling prospects in Hollywood, Haines made the difficult decision to retire from acting. He transitioned into a successful second career as an interior designer, leveraging his eye for style and creativity to become highly sought after among Hollywood's elite. Despite the challenges posed by alcoholism, William Haines left a lasting legacy in both Hollywood and interior design. His early contributions to silent and early talkie cinema continue to be appreciated for their wit and charm, while his influence on interior design aesthetics remains influential to this day. William Haines passed away on December 26, 1973, leaving behind a legacy that reflects both the highs of Hollywood stardom and the personal struggles that shaped his journey. His story serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities faced by stars in navigating fame, personal identity, and the pressures of addiction during Hollywood's golden age. Bela Lugosi. Born Bela Ferenc Dezoblasco on October 20, 1882, in Lugos, Kingdom of Hungary, now Lugoj, Romania, Bela Lugosi achieved international fame as an iconic actor in horror cinema, notably for his definitive portrayal of Count Dracula in the 1931 film adaptation. Lugosi's commanding presence, captivating accent, and theatrical charisma made him synonymous with the role of the vampire count, solidifying his status as a horror film legend. Despite his success and enduring legacy in the horror genre, Lugosi faced personal demons that impacted his Hollywood career. Throughout his time in the spotlight, Lugosi battled a profound addiction to alcohol, which exacerbated his struggles with mental health and impacted his professional endeavors. The pressures of maintaining a public persona as the master of macabre took a toll on Lugosi, leading him to rely on alcohol as a coping mechanism. His addiction often resulted in erratic behavior and strained relationships within the industry, hindering his ability to capitalize fully on his early success as Dracula. Despite periodic attempts to seek treatment and regain control over his addiction, including brief periods of sobriety, Lugosi's battle with alcoholism persisted throughout his life. The cyclical nature of addiction frequently interrupted his career momentum and led to missed opportunities in Hollywood. Nevertheless, Lugosi's impact on the horror genre remains undeniable. Beyond his iconic portrayal of Dracula, he continued to appear in numerous horror films and gained a dedicated fan following for his distinctive style and magnetic screen presence. His ability to evoke both fear and sympathy from audiences solidified his place in cinematic history. Bela Lugosi passed away on August 16, 1956, leaving behind a legacy marked by his contributions to horror cinema and the enduring influence of his portrayal of Count Dracula. His story serves as a reminder of the complexities faced by actors in navigating fame, personal challenges, and the enduring allure of Hollywood's darker realms. Dorothy Mackaill. Born Dorothy Davenport on March 4, 1903 in Kingston upon Hull, England, Dorothy Mackaill was a talented actress who made her mark during Hollywood's silent film era and early talkies. Known for her beauty, versatility, and on-screen presence, Mackaill captivated audiences with her performances in a variety of roles, ranging from romantic comedies to dramas. Despite her professional successes, Mackaill faced personal challenges that would impact her career and personal life. Like many in Hollywood during her time, she struggled with alcohol addiction, which became a persistent issue throughout her career. The pressures of maintaining a public image, combined with the demanding and competitive nature of the film industry, contributed to her reliance on alcohol as a coping mechanism. Mackaill's addiction affected her ability to secure consistent and substantial roles in Hollywood. Despite her talent and appeal, periods of dependency led to erratic behavior and professional setbacks, hampering her career trajectory and limiting opportunities for significant roles. Throughout her life, Mackaill made efforts to confront her addiction, seeking treatment and periods of sobriety. However, the cyclical nature of alcoholism posed ongoing challenges, impacting both her personal life and professional endeavors. Despite the difficulties posed by her addiction, Dorothy Mackaill left behind a legacy of memorable performances and contributions to early Hollywood cinema. Her ability to captivate audiences with her charm and versatility continues to be appreciated by film enthusiasts, highlighting her enduring impact on the industry. Dorothy Mackaill passed away on August 12, 1990, leaving behind a legacy marked by her talent, resilience, and the complexities of navigating fame and personal challenges during Hollywood's golden age. Her story serves as a poignant reminder of the pressures faced by actors and actresses in the early days of cinema and the personal toll of addiction on their lives and careers. Louise Brooks. Born Mary Louise Brooks on November 14, 1906, in Cherryvale, Kansas, Louise Brooks emerged as an iconic figure in silent film history, celebrated for her distinctive bob haircut and magnetic screen presence. Her breakthrough role in G.W. Pabst's Pandora's Box, 1929, solidified her status as a symbol of the liberated and modern woman of the 1920s. Despite her early success and enduring influence on cinema, Brooks faced profound personal struggles throughout her life. Among these challenges were battles with alcoholism and mental health issues, which cast shadows over her career and personal relationships. The pressures of fame and the demanding nature of the film industry contributed to Brooks's reliance on alcohol as a coping mechanism. Her addiction occasionally led to erratic behavior and strained professional opportunities, impacting her ability to capitalize fully on her early acclaim. Beyond her struggles with alcoholism, Brooks also grappled with mental health issues, including bouts of depression and anxiety. These challenges added layers of complexity to her personal life and career, influencing her relationships and artistic pursuits. Louise Brooks passed away on August 8, 1985, leaving behind a legacy marked by her artistic vision, personal struggles, and the enduring allure of her cinematic presence. Jeanne Eagels. Born Eugenia Eagles on June 26, 1890, in Kansas City, Missouri, Jeanne Eagles was a stage and film actress whose talent and intensity captivated audiences during the early 20th century. She gained acclaim for her powerful performances on Broadway and later transitioned to Hollywood, where she made a significant impact despite a tragically short film career. Eagles' breakthrough role came with her portrayal of Leslie Crosby in the 1929 film adaptation of W. Somerset Maugham's play, The Letter. Her performance as a woman embroiled in scandal and intrigue earned her widespread praise and a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actress, cementing her reputation as a formidable talent in both stage and screen. However, behind her professional success lay personal struggles that would profoundly affect her life and career. Throughout her adult life, Eagles battled with alcoholism and substance abuse, which often overshadowed her artistic achievements. The pressures of fame, coupled with the demanding nature of her work, contributed to her reliance on alcohol and drugs as coping mechanisms. Eagles' addiction issues led to periods of erratic behavior and strained relationships, both personal and professional. Despite efforts to seek treatment and intermittent periods of sobriety, her dependency continued to impact her ability to maintain a stable career trajectory and fully capitalize on her early successes. Despite these challenges, Eagles' talent and presence on stage and screen left an indelible mark on the entertainment industry. Her ability to portray complex characters with depth and emotional authenticity resonated deeply with audiences, showcasing her ability to capture the complexities of human emotion and frailty. Tragically, Jeanne Eagles' life was cut short at the age of 39 on October 3, 1929, due to complications from alcoholism and drug addiction. Her untimely death marked the premature end of a career that showed immense promise and potential, leaving behind a legacy defined by her talent, intensity, and the tragic consequences of addiction in the golden age of Hollywood. The red carpets, the flashing cameras, the adoring fans all create an illusion of invincibility.
But what happens when the curtains close, the lights dim, and the stars are left alone with their own human frailties? For some, this solitude becomes a breeding ground for self-destructive habits, particularly alcoholism. And for a tragic few, the bottle becomes both a confidant and a killer, leading them down a path from which there is no return. These are some of the Hollywood actors who drank themselves to death. Veronica Lake. Born Constance Frances Marie Aukelman in 1922, was the epitome of Hollywood glamour in the 1940s. With her signature peekaboo hairstyle and sultry looks, she became an overnight sensation after her role in the 1941 film Sullivan's Travels. However, her rapid ascent to stardom was matched by an equally rapid descent into alcoholism. Lake's career began to wane by the late 1940s. Her erratic behavior on set, fueled by her increasing alcohol consumption, made her difficult to work with. By 1952, her contract with Paramount Pictures was not renewed, and she found herself performing in a small nightclub in New York to make ends meet. Her struggles with alcohol also led to the collapse of her marriages. She was married and divorced 4 times. In 1973, at the age of 50, Lake died of acute hepatitis and acute kidney injury, conditions exacerbated by years of alcohol abuse. She was found dead in her apartment in Burlington, Vermont, a tragic end to a life that had once held so much promise. Judy Garland. Born Frances Ethel Gumm in 1922, Judy Garland captured hearts as the innocent Dorothy in the 1939 classic The Wizard of Oz. Her voice was magical, her presence undeniable, but behind the scenes, Garland faced immense pressure from studio executives. They controlled her diet, her appearance, and even her sleep, often giving her pills to manage her energy levels. Garland's reliance on medication soon turned into dependency, and alcohol became another means to cope with her stressful life. Her career had its ups and downs. She was lauded for her performances in films like A Star is Born in 1954, but faced professional setbacks due to her erratic behavior and frequent illnesses, often attributed to her alcoholism. Her personal life was equally tumultuous. Garland was married 5 times, and each relationship was fraught with issues, including her struggles with substance abuse. On June 22, 1969, Garland was found dead in her London apartment. The cause was an accidental overdose of barbiturates, but years of alcohol abuse had taken their toll. She was only 47 years old. Billie Holiday, the voice silenced by cirrhosis. Born Eleonora Fagan in 1915, was one of the most influential jazz singers of all time. Her emotive voice, innovative techniques, and the raw honesty of her music made her an icon. However, Holiday's life was far from easy. She faced racial discrimination, abusive relationships, and a long-standing battle with substance abuse. Holiday's career took off in the 1930s, but her personal life was marred by a series of unfortunate events, including multiple arrests for drug possession. Alcohol became a constant companion, a way to numb the pain of a life filled with hardships. By the late 1950s, her health had deteriorated significantly due to cirrhosis of the liver, a direct result of her alcoholism. On July 17, 1959, Billie Holiday passed away in a New York City hospital. The official cause of death was cirrhosis of the liver. She was just 44 years old, her life and career cut tragically short by the very substances she used to cope with her difficult life. Carole Lombard, the comedy queen's untimely demise. Known for her roles in screwball comedies like My Man Godfrey, 1936, and Nothing Sacred, 1937, she was one of the highest-paid stars in Hollywood during the late 1930s. Her marriage to Clark Gable in 1939 seemed like a fairy tale, but behind the laughter and love was a woman grappling with personal demons, including a dependency on alcohol. Her drinking was initially social, a part of the Hollywood scene, but it escalated as she faced the pressures of maintaining her career and public image. The stress intensified during World War II as she became actively involved in war efforts, even going so far as to participate in a war bond tour. It was during this tour that tragedy struck. On January 16, 1942, the plane carrying her and 21 others crashed into a mountain near Las Vegas, killing everyone on board. She was only 33 years old. The official investigation cited pilot error as the cause, but rumors swirled about Lombard's state during the flight. Witnesses claimed she had been drinking before boarding, raising questions about whether alcohol played a role in the tragedy. While these claims were never substantiated, what remains clear is that her untimely death left a void in Hollywood and in the hearts of millions of fans. Her legacy, however, endures. She's remembered not just for her roles in iconic films, but also for her vivacious spirit and her contributions to the war effort. Yet her life serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even those who seem to have it all can be fighting battles we know nothing about. Jean Harlow, the blonde bombshell's battle with alcohol. She burst onto the Hollywood scene in the early 1930s, quickly becoming a sensation for her platinum blonde hair and sultry screen presence. Films like Hell's Angels, 1930, and Red Dust, 1932, catapulted her to stardom, making her one of the most sought-after actresses of her time. But behind the glamorous facade was a woman struggling with the pressures of fame and a growing dependence on alcohol. The studios capitalized on her image as a sex symbol, but this objectification took a toll on her self-esteem. To cope with the stress, she turned to alcohol, a decision that would have dire consequences. Her drinking began affecting her work. She would often show up late on set, and her performances started to suffer. The studio executives, concerned about their investment, tried to intervene, but to little avail. Her health began to deteriorate rapidly. In early 1937, she was diagnosed with acute nephritis, a severe kidney condition. Despite her illness, she continued to drink, exacerbating her health problems. On June 7, 1937, she died from complications related to her condition. She was just 26 years old. The news of her death shocked Hollywood and the world. Fans mourned the loss of a star who had shone so brightly yet burned out so quickly. Her story serves as a grim reminder of the destructive power of alcohol, especially when combined with the pressures of fame. It's a tale that has been told too often in Hollywood, a place where the lights can sometimes blind us to the darker aspects of life. Barbara Payton, A Starlet's Downfall to Skid Row. She was a promising actress in the early 1950s, with roles in films like Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, 1950, alongside James Cagney. Her beauty and talent seemed to promise a long, successful career in Hollywood. However, a series of poor choices, both personal and professional, led her down a path of self-destruction. Payton's life began to unravel when she became embroiled in a highly publicized love triangle with actors Franchot Tone and Tom Neal. The scandal was fodder for the tabloids and damaged her reputation in the industry. As film roles became scarce, she turned to alcohol to numb the pain of her faltering career and tumultuous personal life. Her drinking escalated quickly, leading to arrests and public incidents that further tarnished her image. By the late 1950s, she was no longer employable as an actress and began working in a variety of low-paying jobs, including as a waitress and a cashier. The glamour and promise of her early years in Hollywood seemed like a distant memory. In 1967, at the age of 39, Payton was found dead in her apartment in San Diego. The cause of death was acute alcohol poisoning. Her life had spiraled so far out of control that she was virtually unrecognizable as the starlet who had once graced the silver screen. Her story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of alcoholism and the fleeting nature of fame. It's a stark reminder that the bright lights of Hollywood can cast long, dark shadows. Chris Farley, the comedian, consumed by addiction. He burst onto the comedy scene in the early 90s, becoming an instant fan favorite on Saturday Night Live with his larger-than-life personality and physical comedy. His transition to film seemed natural, with hits like Tommy Boy in 1995 and Black Sheep, 1996, cementing his status as a comedy star. But behind the laughter was a man struggling with severe addiction issues, including alcoholism, Farley's quick rise to fame came with its own set of pressures. The expectations for each new project were high, and the comedian turned to alcohol and drugs as coping mechanisms. His weight ballooned and his health deteriorated, but the partying continued. Multiple stints in rehab did little to curb his self-destructive behavior. His friends and family watched helplessly as his life spiraled out of control. On December 18, 1997, Farley was found dead in his Chicago apartment. The cause of death was a drug overdose, but years of alcohol abuse had taken a significant toll on his body. He was only 33 years old. The news of his death sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry. Fans mourned the loss of a comedic genius whose life had been cut tragically short. His story serves as a heartbreaking example of how addiction can consume even the most talented individuals, leaving behind a legacy of unfulfilled potential and sorrow. John Belushi, The Life of the Party Ends in Tragedy. A founding member of the Not Ready for Prime Time Players on Saturday Night Live, he became a cultural icon in the late 70s. His comedic style was boisterous, physical, and utterly captivating. Films like Animal House, 1978, and The Blues Brothers, 1980, showcased his talent and versatility, but they also perpetuated his hard-partying image, an image that would ultimately prove fatal. The pressure to maintain his comedic persona led him to a life of excess marked by heavy drinking and drug use. His behavior became increasingly erratic, affecting both his personal relationships and professional commitments. Despite the interventions of friends and family, he seemed unable to escape the grip of his addictions. On March 5, 1982, he was found dead in his room at the Chateau Marmont in Hollywood. The cause of death was a lethal combination of cocaine and heroin, known as a speedball, but chronic alcohol abuse had also taken a toll on his health. He was just 33 years old, the same age as his friend and fellow comedian Chris Farley when he died. Montgomery Clift, a tortured soul lost to alcohol. A four-time Academy Award nominee, he was one of the most celebrated actors of the 1950s. His performances in films like A Place in the Sun, 1951, and From Here to Eternity, 1953, were critically acclaimed, earning him a reputation as a serious and talented actor. However, his life off-screen was far less idyllic, marred by a deep-rooted struggle with alcoholism. The turning point came in 1956 when he was involved in a near-fatal car accident that left him severely disfigured. The accident and subsequent surgeries took a toll on his mental health, and he turned to alcohol to cope with the pain and anxiety. His drinking affected his ability to work, directors found him increasingly difficult to manage, and his performances suffered as a result. By the 1960s, his career had declined significantly. The roles were fewer, and his health was deteriorating rapidly. Despite attempts to get sober, he couldn't escape the clutches of his addiction. On July 23, 1966, he was found dead in his New York City apartment. The official cause of death was a heart attack, but it was widely acknowledged that years of alcohol abuse had contributed to his early demise. He was only 45 years old. Dana Plato, A Child Star's Descent into Darkness. She captured America's heart as Kimberly Drummond on the popular TV show Different Strokes, which aired from 1978 to 1986. The show's success made her a household name, but it also exposed her to the pitfalls of early fame. As she transitioned from child star to adult actress, she found it difficult to secure roles, leading to a sense of frustration and inadequacy. To cope with her waning career and mounting personal issues, she turned to alcohol and drugs. Her substance abuse led to erratic behavior, making it even more challenging to find work in an industry that had already typecast her. Legal troubles soon followed. She was arrested multiple times for offenses ranging from forgery to robbery. Her life reached a tragic climax on May 8, 1999, when she was found dead in her RV. Parked outside her fiancé's mother's home in Oklahoma, the cause of death was ruled as an overdose of prescription medication, a combination of a muscle relaxant and a painkiller. However, her long-term struggle with alcohol was a contributing factor to her downward spiral. She was 34 years old at the time of her death. Dana Plato's story is a heartbreaking example of how the pressures of fame can lead to self-destructive behavior. Her life serves as a cautionary tale, illustrating the dark side of celebrity and the devastating consequences of addiction. It's a grim reminder that the transition from child star to adult can be fraught with peril, especially when complicated by substance abuse. River Phoenix, the rising star who burned out too soon. He was a prodigious talent, earning an Academy Award nomination at the age of 18 for his role in Running on Empty, 1988. His performances in films like Stand By Me, 1986, and My Own Private Idaho, 1991, showcased his range and depth, making him one of the most promising actors of his generation. But beneath the accolades and the public adoration lay a young man grappling with the pressures of fame and a growing dependency on alcohol and drugs. His substance abuse began as a coping mechanism to deal with the stress and expectations that came with his rapid rise to stardom. Despite his young age, he was already shouldering the burden of being the primary breadwinner for his family, adding another layer of pressure. His drinking escalated, often affecting his behavior on set and causing concern among those who cared about him. On the night of October 31st, 1993, he collapsed outside the Viper Room, a nightclub in West Hollywood. He was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead on arrival. The cause of death was acute multiple drug intoxication, including heroin and cocaine. However, his long-term abuse of alcohol had also played a role in his tragic end. He was only 23 years old at the time of his death. His untimely passing shocked the world, leaving fans and the film industry to mourn the loss of a talent that had seemed limitless. His story serves as a stark warning about the dangers of substance abuse, particularly for those in the public eye. Margaux Hemingway, the supermodel, haunted by inner demons, granddaughter of the famed writer Ernest Hemingway, she seemed destined for greatness from the start. She made a name for herself as a supermodel in the 1970s, gracing the covers of top fashion magazines and becoming the first model to secure a $1 million contract for a cosmetics campaign. Her transition to acting, including a role in the 1976 film Lipstick, appeared to signal a new chapter in her already successful career. However, behind the camera flashes and red carpet events was a woman tormented by personal struggles, including alcoholism. Her battle with alcohol began in her early 20s, exacerbated by the pressures of her high-profile career and a family history of substance abuse. Despite her public persona as a glamorous and confident woman, she suffered from depression and low self-esteem, issues that alcohol temporarily masked but ultimately worsened. As her career waned in the 1980s, her drinking escalated. Multiple stints in rehab failed to provide a lasting solution, and her personal life became increasingly unstable. On July 1st, 1996, she was found dead in her Santa Monica apartment. The cause of death was suicide by overdose, but her chronic alcohol abuse was a contributing factor. She was 41 years old at the time of her death. Jim Morrison, the rock legend who couldn't escape his vices. As the charismatic frontman of The Doors, he became an iconic figure in rock music during the late 1960s. His poetic lyrics and magnetic stage presence captivated audiences, making him one of the most influential musicians of his time. However, his rapid ascent to fame came with a heavy price, as he grappled with alcoholism and drug addiction. His relationship with alcohol was complex and destructive. It fueled his creativity but also led to erratic behavior, both on and off the stage. Arrests for public indecency and confrontations with law enforcement became frequent, tarnishing his public image. Despite the negative impact on his career and personal life, he seemed unable or unwilling to break free from his addictions. On July 3, 1971, he was found dead in the bathtub of his Paris apartment. The official cause of death was heart failure, but no autopsy was performed due to French legal regulations. He was 27 years old, joining the infamous 27 Club, a group of musicians who died at that age. While the exact circumstances of his death remain a subject of speculation, it is widely accepted that his years of alcohol and drug abuse were contributing factors. Janis Joplin, the queen of rock and roll's battle with the bottle. She burst onto the music scene in the late 1960s, her soulful voice and electric stage presence quickly earning her the title of the Queen of Rock and Roll. Her hits like Piece of My Heart and Me and Bobby McGee are timeless classics, but her life was cut tragically short, largely due to her struggles with alcohol and drug addiction. From her early days in the San Francisco music scene, she was known for her hard-living lifestyle. Alcohol became a constant companion, often seen swigging from a bottle of Southern Comfort during performances. While her raw energy and emotional intensity were part of her allure, they also masked deep-seated insecurities and emotional pain, which she sought to numb through substance abuse. Her career was on an upward trajectory, with her second solo album, Pearl, poised to become her most successful yet. However, she would not live to see its release. On October 4, 1970, she was found dead in her hotel room in Hollywood. The cause of death was a heroin overdose, but her chronic alcohol abuse had also taken a toll on her health. She was 27 years old, another member of the ill-fated 27 Club. Heath Ledger, a brilliant actor's final act. He was a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood, earning critical acclaim for roles in films like Brokeback Mountain, 2005, and The Dark Knight, 2008. His portrayal of the Joker remains one of the most iconic performances in cinematic history. However, behind the accolades and the fame was a man struggling with the pressures of his rapidly ascending career, turning to alcohol and prescription drugs as coping mechanisms. His friends and family noticed changes in his behavior as he became more reclusive, often locking himself away to prepare for roles. The intensity with which he approached his craft began to take a physical and emotional toll. Sleep became elusive, and he relied on a cocktail of prescription medications to manage his insomnia and anxiety. On January 22, 2008, he was found dead in his New York City apartment. The cause of death was ruled as an accidental overdose of prescription medications, including sleeping pills and anti-anxiety drugs. However, his history of alcohol abuse was also a contributing factor, exacerbating the effects of the medications. He was 28 years old at the time of his death. His untimely passing left the world in shock, mourning the loss of an actor whose potential seemed limitless. His story serves as a grim reminder of the dangers of mixing alcohol with prescription medications, a lethal combination that can lead to tragic outcomes. It's a cautionary tale that underscores the need for greater awareness and understanding of the risks associated with substance abuse, even among those who seem to have it all. The stories of these talented individuals serve as a collective cautionary tale, illustrating the devastating impact that alcoholism and substance abuse can have. Each of them reached the pinnacle of success in their respective fields, captivating audiences with their artistry. Yet each also faced personal demons that ultimately led to their untimely deaths. The broader impact of these tragedies extends beyond the loss of talent. Families were shattered, fans were left heartbroken, and the entertainment industry lost some of its brightest stars. These stories also serve as a wake-up call, highlighting the urgent need for mental health support and addiction treatment, particularly within the high-pressure environment of Hollywood. It's a grim reality that substance abuse is often glamorized or overlooked, especially when it involves celebrities. Yet, as these profiles reveal, no amount of fame or fortune can shield one from the destructive power of addiction. They dazzled on the silver screen, their beauty and talent capturing the hearts of millions. But behind the fame and celebrity of Hollywood's golden age, there was a darker story, a tale of tragedy, addiction, and lives cut short. From Clara Bow, the original It Girl, to Carole Lombard, the queen of screwball comedies, these actresses had it all: fame, fortune, and adoration. Yet each faced a battle they couldn't win, a battle with the bottle that would ultimately lead to their downfall. Meet the Hollywood actors who drank themselves to death. Get ready for a journey into the hidden chapters of Hollywood history, where the spotlight shines not on their stardom, but on their struggles and the lessons they left behind. Clara Bow, the original It Girl, drowned in a sea of alcohol. She burst onto the Hollywood scene in the 1920s, becoming an instant sensation and the epitome of the roaring 20s flapper lifestyle. Born on July 29, 1905, In Brooklyn, New York, she rose from a life of poverty to become one of the biggest stars of the silent film era. Her breakthrough came in 1927 with the film It, earning her the nickname the It Girl. However, the pressures of fame took a toll on her mental health. Clara struggled with severe anxiety and turned to alcohol as a coping mechanism. Her drinking escalated during the transition from silent films to talkies, a period that saw many stars of her era fade into obscurity. She was often seen intoxicated at Hollywood parties, and her behavior became increasingly erratic. In 1931, she abruptly retired from acting, citing nervous breakdowns and extreme stress. Her marriage to actor Rex Bell in 1931 seemed like a new chapter, but her alcoholism continued to plague her. Clara was hospitalized multiple times for her mental health issues, exacerbated by her heavy drinking. She spent her later years in seclusion, far removed from the Hollywood spotlight, until her death on September 27, 1965, from a heart attack. While the official cause of death was not directly attributed to alcohol, her years of heavy drinking had undoubtedly taken a toll on her health. Jean Harlow, Hollywood's original blonde, bombshell, succumbs to illness and addiction. She was the original blonde bombshell, captivating audiences with her platinum blonde hair and sultry screen presence. Born Harlan Harlow Carpenter on March 3, 1911 in Kansas City, Missouri, she moved to Hollywood at a young age and quickly rose to stardom. Her breakthrough role came in Howard Hughes' Hell's Angels in 1930, and she became one of the biggest box office draws of the 1930s. Life in the fast lane came with its own set of challenges. The pressures of fame, coupled with a tumultuous personal life, led her to seek solace in alcohol. Her drinking habits were well known within Hollywood circles, often overshadowing her professional achievements. She was married 3 times, each relationship fraught with issues exacerbated by her alcoholism. In 1937, she began experiencing health issues, including extreme fatigue and nausea. Despite her symptoms, she continued to work on the film Saratoga. Tragically, her health rapidly deteriorated, and she was hospitalized for kidney failure. On June 7, 1937, she passed away at the young age of 26. The official cause of death was listed as cerebral edema, a complication of kidney failure. While alcohol was not cited as the direct cause, her years of heavy drinking had undoubtedly contributed to her poor health. Susan Hayward, a fiery talent engulfed by personal demons. A powerhouse on screen, she was known for her fiery red hair and equally fiery performances. Born Edith Mariner on June 30, 1917, in Brooklyn, New York, she moved to Hollywood and changed her name to Susan Hayward. Her career took off in the 1940s, earning her 5 Academy Award nominations and a win for I Want to Live in 1958. Despite her professional success, her personal life was fraught with challenges. She was married twice, first to actor Jess Barker, with whom she had a tumultuous relationship that ended in a bitter divorce in 1954. Her second marriage to Floyd Eaton Chalkley was happier but short-lived due to his sudden death in 1966. These personal setbacks led her to seek comfort in alcohol, a habit that escalated over the years. In the late 1960s, she began experiencing health issues, including frequent headaches and seizures. Doctors diagnosed her with brain cancer in 1972, a condition that many speculate could have been exacerbated by her years of heavy drinking and smoking. She underwent treatment, including chemotherapy and radiation, but her health continued to decline. On March 14, 1975, she passed away at her home in Beverly Hills. While alcohol was not the direct cause of her death, it had certainly played a role in her deteriorating health. Tallulah Bankhead, the eccentric star whose light dimmed too soon. A woman of many talents and even more controversies, she was as famous for her off-screen antics as she was for her on-screen performances. Born on January 31, 1902 in Huntsville, Alabama, she moved to New York City to pursue a career in acting. Her Broadway debut came in 1918, but it was her performance in The Little Foxes in 1939 that solidified her reputation as a formidable actress. Her lifestyle was as extravagant as her personality. Known for her wit, her parties were legendary, often lasting until the early hours of the morning. But this lifestyle came at a cost. She was a heavy smoker and drinker, habits that were exacerbated by her struggles with depression and various health issues. Her drinking became so problematic that it began to interfere with her work. She often showed up on set intoxicated, leading to tensions with directors and co-stars. In the 1950s, her health began to decline rapidly. She suffered from multiple bouts of pneumonia and was diagnosed with emphysema and malnutrition, conditions worsened by her chronic alcoholism. Despite numerous hospitalizations, she continued to drink heavily until her death on December 12, 1968, from double pneumonia complicated by emphysema. While alcohol was not listed as the direct cause of her death, it was a contributing factor to her declining health and ultimately her demise. Greta Garbo, the enigmatic beauty haunted by loneliness. A symbol of mystery and allure, her face graced the screens of both silent films and talkies, leaving an indelible mark on Hollywood history. Born Greta Lovisa Gustafsson on September 18, 1905, in Stockholm, Sweden, she moved to the United States in the early 1920s and quickly rose to stardom. Her roles in films like Anna Karenina, 1935, and Camille at 1936 earned her critical acclaim and solidified her status as one of the greatest actresses of her time. Despite her on-screen charisma, she was intensely private and struggled with the pressures of fame. This led her to seek solace in alcohol, a habit that became more pronounced as she aged. Her drinking was a well-guarded secret, but those close to her knew that it was a coping mechanism for her increasing reclusiveness and bouts of depression. In 1941, at the age of 36, she retired from acting and led an increasingly secluded life. Her health began to deteriorate in the 1980s, exacerbated by years of heavy drinking. She suffered from kidney disease and other ailments, leading to her hospitalization on several occasions. On April 15, 1990, she passed away from pneumonia and renal failure. While alcohol was not cited as the direct cause of her death, her years of heavy drinking had undoubtedly contributed to her declining health. Dorothy Dandridge, the trailblazer whose flame burned out too soon. A groundbreaking figure in Hollywood, she broke racial barriers and became the first African-American actress to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in Carmen Jones, 1954. Born on November 9, 1922, in Cleveland, Ohio, she started her career as a nightclub singer before transitioning to film. Her beauty and talent quickly caught the attention of Hollywood producers, but her roles were often limited due to the racial prejudices of the time. The limitations imposed on her career took a toll on her mental well-being. She faced financial difficulties and was often typecast in roles that did not do justice to her talent. To cope with the stress and disappointment, she turned to alcohol, a habit that spiraled into addiction. Her drinking affected her professional relationships, leading to fewer job offers and increasing financial strain. Her personal life was equally tumultuous. She was married twice, first to dancer Harold Nicholas and then to Jack Dennison, both marriages ending in divorce and leaving her emotionally and financially drained. On September 8, 1965, she was found dead in her West Hollywood apartment. The cause of death was ruled as an accidental overdose of antidepressants, but her chronic alcoholism was a contributing factor to her untimely demise at the age of 42. Jeanne Eagles, a meteoric rise cut short by addiction. A star whose light shone brightly but briefly, she was one of the most promising talents of the late 1920s. Born Eugenia Eagles on June 26, 1890, in Kansas City, Missouri, she began her career in vaudeville before transitioning to Broadway. Her performance in the play Rain in 1922 catapulted her to stardom, and she soon made her way to Hollywood. Her success, however, came with its own set of challenges. The pressure to maintain her newfound fame and the grueling work schedule led her to seek relief in alcohol and drugs. Her addiction became so severe that it started affecting her work. She was often late to set and sometimes unable to perform. Despite her obvious talent, her unreliability made her a risky investment for producers. Her personal life was equally chaotic. She was married twice, first to actor Edward Harris Coy and then to Morris Dubinsky, both relationships marred by her increasing dependency on alcohol and narcotics. Her health began to deteriorate rapidly, and she was frequently hospitalized for what was then termed nervous disorders, a euphemism for her addiction issues. On October 3, 1929, she died suddenly at the age of 39. The official cause of death was listed as alcoholic psychosis, a term used to describe severe mental conditions arising from chronic alcohol abuse. Her death served as a cautionary tale for the entertainment industry, highlighting the dangers of addiction amidst the glamour and glitz of Hollywood fame. Thelma Todd, the comedy queen's mysterious end. Known as the Ice Cream Blonde, she was a beloved comedic actress of the early 1930s. Born on July 29, 1906, in Lawrence, Massachusetts, she quickly rose to fame with her roles in Hal Roach comedies, often starring alongside comedy legends like Laurel and Hardy. Her beauty and comedic timing made her a popular figure in Hollywood, but behind the laughter lay a life filled with challenges. The constant pressure to maintain her image and the demands of her career led her to seek comfort in alcohol. Her drinking was an open secret in Hollywood, often discussed in hushed tones but rarely addressed publicly. She was also involved in a series of tumultuous relationships, most notably with film director Roland West, which added to her emotional stress. On the morning of December 16, 1935, she was found dead in her car inside the garage of her lover, Roland West. The official cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning, but the circumstances surrounding her death remain a subject of speculation and controversy to this day. Some believe it was a suicide, while others suspect foul play, possibly related to her involvement with organized crime figures who frequented her restaurant, Thelma Todd's Sidewalk Cafe. While alcohol was not directly implicated in her death, her years of heavy drinking had taken a toll on her emotional and physical well-being, contributing to the cloud of mystery that still hangs over her untimely demise at the age of 29. Lupe Velez, the Mexican Spitfire's tragic finale. Dubbed the Mexican Spitfire for her vivacious screen presence and fiery personality, she was a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood during the 1930s. Born Maria Guadalupe Villalobos Vélez on July 18, 1908, in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, she moved to the United States in her late teens to pursue a career in entertainment. Her breakthrough came with the film The Gaucho in 1927, and she quickly became a household name. Her on-screen persona was larger than life, but off-screen, she struggled with the emotional toll of fame. Known for her tempestuous relationships, including a highly publicized marriage to actor Johnny Weissmuller, her personal life was a constant source of tabloid fodder. To cope with the stress, she turned to alcohol, a habit that spiraled into addiction over the years. Her career began to wane in the late 1930s, and she found it increasingly difficult to secure roles that matched her talent. This professional decline, coupled with her failed relationships, led her into a deep depression. On December 13th in 1944, she was found dead in her Beverly Hills home. The official cause of death was ruled as suicide by an overdose of Seconal, a barbiturate. While alcohol was not the direct cause, her chronic drinking had exacerbated her emotional instability, leading to her tragic end at the age of 36. Frances Farmer, the rebel, torn apart by Hollywood's machinery. A woman of immense talent and beauty, she was also one of Hollywood's most misunderstood figures. Born on September 19, 1913, in Seattle, Washington, she gained early fame for her controversial high school essay God Dies, which caught the attention of local newspapers. Her acting career took off with a theater scholarship, and she eventually made her way to Hollywood, starring in films like Come and Get It, 1936, and Son of Fury, 1942. Her outspoken nature and refusal to conform to Hollywood norms made her a target for the studio system. She was often at odds with producers and directors, leading to a decline in the quality of roles offered to her. To cope with the stress and disappointment, she turned to alcohol, which soon became a full-blown addiction. Her life took a darker turn in the 1940s, when she was arrested multiple times for drunk driving and assault. She was eventually committed to a mental institution where she underwent electroconvulsive therapy, a treatment that had devastating effects on her mental health. Despite attempts to revive her career in the 1950s, her health and spirit were broken, largely due to her years of alcohol abuse and the brutal treatment she received while institutionalized. On August 1, 1970, she died of esophageal cancer, a condition often linked to chronic alcohol abuse. While her death was not directly caused by alcohol, her years of drinking had undoubtedly contributed to her tragic life trajectory and early death at the age of 56. Judy Holiday, the comedic genius, silenced by illness. Best known for her Academy Award-winning role in Born Yesterday, 1950, she was a comedic actress whose intelligence and wit shone through every performance. Born Judith Tuvim on June 21, 1921, in New York City, she began her career in the theater before transitioning to film. Her roles often portrayed her as a dumb blonde, but those who knew her were aware of her sharp intellect and quick wit. Despite her on-screen success, she faced numerous challenges in her personal life. The pressures of fame and the scrutiny of the Hollywood blacklist during the McCarthy era took a toll on her emotional well-being. To cope, she turned to alcohol, a habit that gradually escalated into dependency. Her drinking was a poorly kept secret in Hollywood circles and began to affect her ability to secure quality roles. In the early 1960s, her health began to deteriorate. She was diagnosed with breast cancer but continued to work despite her illness. Her condition worsened, exacerbated by her years of heavy drinking, which had a detrimental effect on her overall health. On June 7, 1965, she passed away at the age of 43. While cancer was the official cause of her death, her chronic alcohol abuse had undoubtedly weakened her body, making it difficult for her to fight the disease. Vivien Leigh, the Southern belle who couldn't escape her demons. Immortalized for her role as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, 1939, she was the epitome of grace and beauty on screen. Born Vivian Mary Hartley on November 5, 1913, in Darjeeling, British India, she moved to England at a young age and pursued a career in acting. Her performance in Gone with the Wind earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress, and she later won another for A Streetcar Named Desire, 1951. Despite her professional triumphs, her personal life was fraught with difficulties. She suffered from bipolar disorder, a condition that was poorly understood at the time. The mood swings and depressive episodes associated with the disorder made her increasingly reliant on alcohol as a coping mechanism. Her drinking escalated over the years, affecting both her career and her marriage to actor Laurence Olivier. Her health began to decline in the late 1950s, exacerbated by her chronic tuberculosis, a condition she had battled since her youth. Her weakened immune system, further compromised by her alcohol abuse, made it difficult for her to recover. On July 8, 1967, she was found dead in her London apartment. The official cause of death was tuberculosis, but her years of alcohol abuse had undoubtedly contributed to her weakened state, leading to her untimely death at the age of 53. The stories of these actors and actresses are not just tales of personal tragedy, but also cautionary lessons about the darker aspects of Hollywood fame, the pressures of maintaining a public image, the grueling work schedules, and the scrutiny of the media can take a toll on even the most resilient individuals. For many, the escape they found in alcohol or substances led to a downward spiral that had irreversible consequences on their careers and lives. Imagine a Hollywood where the stars you know and love didn't just grace the silver screen, but also battled demons so dark they could rival any movie villain. What if I told you that some of the most iconic faces in film history had lives that were more tragic than the roles they played? Buckle up, because we're diving deep into the untold stories of Golden Age Hollywood actors and actresses who drank themselves to death, cut short by their own vices. You won't believe how their dazzling careers turned into real-life horror stories. Jean Seberg, The American in Paris, Lost but never forgotten. A symbol of the French New Wave cinema, She was an American actress who found fame across the Atlantic. Born on November 13, 1938, in Marshalltown, Iowa, she was catapulted to international stardom with her role in Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless, 1960. Her pixie haircut and gamine beauty became iconic, influencing fashion and film for years to come. However, her life was far from the glamour it seemed. She became involved in political activism, supporting civil rights and anti-war movements, which drew the attention of the FBI. The agency's surveillance and harassment took a severe emotional toll on her, leading her to seek solace in alcohol. Her drinking became a way to cope with the constant stress and anxiety, affecting her career and personal relationships. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, she faced a series of personal tragedies, including a stillbirth, which was widely publicized due to the FBI's smear campaign against her. Her mental health deteriorated, and her reliance on alcohol became more pronounced. On September 8, 1979, she was found dead in her car in Paris. But many believe that her years of alcohol abuse and the emotional trauma inflicted by the FBI's harassment played a significant role in her tragic end at the age of 40. Carole Landis, the blonde bombshell's descent into darkness. A stunning beauty with a vivacious personality, she was dubbed the Ping Girl and the Chest of the Future for her voluptuous figure. Born Frances Lillian Mary Ridsty on January 1, 1919, in Fairchild, Wisconsin, she changed her name to Carole Landis to reinvent herself for Hollywood. She gained fame for her role in 1 Million BC, 1940, where her scantily clad appearance made her an instant sex symbol. Despite her on-screen allure, her personal life was marred by failed marriages and tumultuous love affairs, including a highly publicized relationship with actor Rex Harrison. The constant media attention and the pressure to maintain her image led her to seek escape in alcohol. Her drinking escalated over time, affecting her ability to land quality roles and further straining her personal relationships. By the late 1940s, her career had stalled, and she found herself relegated to B-movies. Her emotional state worsened, exacerbated by her heavy drinking and a series of personal setbacks, including her failing relationship with Harrison. On July 5, 1948, she was found dead in her home in Beverly Hills. While alcohol was not the direct cause, her years of alcohol abuse had contributed to her emotional instability, culminating in her tragic death at the age of 29. Dorothy Dandridge, the barrier-breaking beauty with a broken heart. A groundbreaking African-American actress and singer, she was the first black woman to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in Carmen Jones, 1954. Born on November 9, 1922, in Cleveland, Ohio, she began her career as a child performer and later transitioned to film, breaking racial barriers in Hollywood. Her success, however, came at a high emotional cost. She faced systemic racism and was often typecast in stereotypical roles, limiting her career opportunities. Her personal life was equally challenging, marked by a troubled marriage to restaurateur Jack Dennison and the birth of a daughter with special needs. The weight of these struggles led her to seek comfort in alcohol, which soon turned into a dependency. By the early 1960s, her career had declined, and she was plagued by financial difficulties. Her drinking worsened, affecting her physical health and emotional well-being. On September 8, 1965, she was found dead in her West Hollywood apartment. The official cause of death was a drug overdose, but her chronic alcohol abuse had undoubtedly played a role in her deteriorating health and tragic demise at the age of 42. Thelma Todd, the ice cream blonde who melted too soon. Nicknamed the Ice Cream Blonde for her platinum locks and creamy complexion, she was a comedic actress who lit up the screens in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Born on July 29, 1906, in Lawrence, Massachusetts, she gained fame for her roles in Hal Roach comedies, often starring alongside comedy legends like Laurel and Hardy. Her life, however, was far from comedic. She faced immense pressure to maintain her image as a glamorous starlet, which led her to seek solace in alcohol. Her drinking became a coping mechanism for the stress and loneliness that came with fame, affecting her personal relationships and career choices. In December 1935, her life took a tragic turn. She was found dead in her car, parked inside the garage of her lover Roland West's ex-wife, Jewel Carmen. The official cause of death was carbon monoxide poisoning. However, rumors swirled about possible foul play, fueled by her tumultuous love life and alleged ties to organized crime. While her death remains shrouded in mystery, her years of alcohol abuse had undoubtedly taken a toll on her emotional and physical health, making her more vulnerable to the tragic circumstances that led to her untimely death at the age of 29. Lupe Velez, the Mexican Spitfire's final flame. Known as the Mexican Spitfire, she was a force of nature both on and off the screen. Born Maria Guadalupe Villalobos Velez on July 18, 1908, in San Luis Potosi, Mexico, she moved to the United States to pursue a career in entertainment. She quickly gained fame for her roles in films like The Gaucho, 1927, and Wolf Song, 1929, often portraying fiery and passionate characters. Her personal life was equally tempestuous, marked by high-profile relationships and marriages, including a tumultuous union with actor Johnny Weissmuller. The constant media scrutiny and the pressure to maintain her vivacious public persona led her to alcohol as a coping mechanism. Her drinking escalated over the years, affecting her career and contributing to the breakdown of her relationships. By the early 1940s, her career had waned, and she found herself grappling with personal issues, including an unplanned pregnancy from a relationship with actor Harold Ramond. On December 13, 1944, she was found dead in her Beverly Hills home. Her chronic alcohol abuse had undoubtedly played a role in her emotional turmoil, leading to her tragic end at the age of 36. Frances Farmer, the rebel soul crushed by the system. A talented actress with a rebellious streak, she was known for her beauty and intelligence, but became infamous for her clashes with studio executives and law enforcement. Born on September 19, 1913, in Seattle, Washington, she gained early fame for her role in Come and Get It, 1936, which showcased her natural talent and screen presence. However, her outspoken nature and refusal to conform to Hollywood norms made her a target for negative press and studio backlash. Her career took a nosedive, and she found solace in alcohol, which soon turned into a full-blown addiction. Her drinking led to erratic behavior, arrests, and eventually involuntary commitment to psychiatric institutions where she underwent electroconvulsive therapy. By the 1950s, her career was virtually over, and she lived in obscurity, working various jobs to make ends meet. Her health deteriorated rapidly, exacerbated by years of alcohol abuse and the physical and emotional toll of her institutionalizations. On August 1, 1970, she died of esophageal cancer in Indianapolis, Indiana. While the official cause of death was cancer, her years of alcohol abuse had significantly contributed to her declining health and tragic end at the age of 56. Peg Entwistle, the Broadway starlet who jumped off the Hollywood sign. A promising actress with roots in Broadway, she became famous not for her roles in films or plays, but for her tragic end. Born Millicent Lillian Entwistle on February 5, 1908, in Port Talbot, Wales, she moved to New York City to pursue a career in acting. She found moderate success on Broadway, but decided to try her luck in Hollywood, hoping for a breakthrough. Her Hollywood dream, however, quickly turned into a nightmare. She struggled to find meaningful roles and faced constant rejection, which took a toll on her mental health. The stress and disappointment led her to alcohol, which she used to numb her emotional pain. In September 1932, her life came to a tragic end. She climbed the Hollywoodland sign, then an advertisement for a housing development, and jumped off the letter H. She was only 24 years old. Her death note read, "I am afraid, I am a coward, I am sorry for everything." While her death was attributed to her mental health struggles, her alcohol abuse was a significant factor that exacerbated her emotional instability. Her story remains one of the most haunting tales of Hollywood, a stark reminder of the dark side of fame and the devastating impact it can have on young lives. Virginia Rapay, the silent film actress whose death shook Hollywood. A rising star in the silent film era, she was poised for greatness but met an untimely and controversial end. Born on July 7, 1895 in Chicago, Illinois, she moved to San Francisco as a young woman to pursue a career in modeling and acting. Her beauty and talent caught the eye of filmmakers, and she appeared in a series of short films, gradually making her way to Hollywood. Her life took a dark turn in 1921 during a party hosted by famous comedian Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. She fell seriously ill at the event and died a few days later on September 9, 1921. Her death led to one of the first major Hollywood scandals, with Arbuckle accused of causing her death through sexual assault. Although he was eventually acquitted, the incident cast a long shadow over both their careers. While the exact circumstances of her death remain a subject of debate, it's widely acknowledged that her health was compromised by chronic cystitis, exacerbated by alcohol abuse. She was known to consume alcohol to cope with the pain from her condition, but the substance likely worsened her health and contributed to her tragic demise at the age of 26. Her story serves as a grim example of how the pressures of Hollywood fame, coupled with personal vulnerabilities, can lead to tragic outcomes, forever altering the course of promising young lives. Wallace Reid, the matinee idol consumed by addiction. A heartthrob of the silent film era, he was the epitome of the all-American hero on screen. Born on April 15, 1891 in St. Louis, Missouri, he quickly rose to stardom with his good looks and natural acting ability, starring in It's Like the Birth of a Nation at 1915 and The Roaring Road in 1919. Off-screen, however, he faced a battle that he couldn't win. During the filming of The Valley of the Giants in 1919, he was injured in a train wreck and prescribed morphine for his pain. The prescription turned into an addiction, one that he supplemented with alcohol as his tolerance for morphine grew. Despite his substance abuse, he continued to work at a frenetic pace, further damaging his already fragile health. His addiction became public knowledge, and the studio tried to help him by sending him to a sanitarium. However, the damage was done. His health deteriorated rapidly, and he was plagued by bouts of pneumonia and influenza, exacerbated by his weakened immune system due to years of substance abuse. On January 18, 1923, he died in a sanitarium in Pasadena, California, at the age of 31. The official cause of death was listed as influenza, but it was clear that his years of alcohol and morphine abuse had taken their toll, cutting short a promising career and life. John Gilbert, the silent film star, silenced by his demons. A leading man of the silent film era, he was often compared to greats like Rudolph Valentino for his romantic roles. Born John Cecil Pringle on July 10, 1897, in Logan, Utah, he gained fame for his collaborations with actress Greta Garbo in films like Flesh and the Devil, 1926, and Love, 1927. However, the advent of talkies proved to be his downfall. His voice didn't transition well to the new medium, and his career began to decline. This professional setback led him to seek solace in alcohol, which soon turned into a full-blown addiction. His drinking affected his ability to work, leading to fewer roles and a tarnished reputation. His personal life was equally tumultuous. He had a series of failed marriages and relationships, adding to his emotional turmoil. His health began to deteriorate due to his excessive drinking, leading to severe liver problems and other complications. On January 9, 1936, he died from a heart attack, exacerbated by his years of alcohol abuse. He was only 38 years old. His death marked the end of a career that had once been full of promise but was ultimately undone by the pressures of fame and his struggles with addiction. Bela Lugosi, the man behind Dracula's cape, best known for his iconic role as Count Dracula in the 1931 film Dracula, he was a Hungarian-American actor who became a legend in horror cinema. Born Bela Ferenc Blasco on October 20th, 1882, in Lugos, Hungary, he immigrated to the United States in 1920 and quickly found work in Hollywood. His portrayal of Dracula made him an instant star, but it also typecast him in horror roles, limiting his career opportunities. As the years passed, the roles became less frequent and less prestigious. This decline in his career led him to seek comfort in morphine and methadone, substances he initially used to treat chronic sciatica. His addiction worsened over time, affecting both his professional and personal life. Multiple attempts at rehabilitation failed, and his health deteriorated rapidly. He was virtually forgotten by the industry that once celebrated him, and he spent his final years in near obscurity. On August 16, 1956, he passed away in his Los Angeles apartment from a heart attack, but his years of substance abuse had undoubtedly contributed to his poor health. He was 73 years old. His life serves as a cautionary tale of the pitfalls of typecasting and the devastating effects of addiction, even for those who once stood at the pinnacle of Hollywood fame. Lou Tellegen, the dashing actor whose flame burned out too soon. A Dutch actor and director, he was once considered one of the most handsome men in Hollywood. Born on November 26, 1881, in Sint Edenrode, Netherlands, he moved to the United States and quickly became a sensation, starring in films like The Explorer, 1915, and The Victoria Cross, 1916. His good looks and charm couldn't protect him from the pitfalls of fame. The pressure to maintain his image and the competition for roles in a rapidly changing industry led him to seek comfort in alcohol. His drinking escalated into a serious problem, affecting both his career and personal life. His marriage to opera singer Geraldine Farrar ended in divorce, adding another layer of emotional distress. His career began to wane and roles became increasingly scarce. Financial difficulties followed, plunging him into a state of despair, a tragic end to a life that had once been filled with promise. He was 52 years old. His death shocked Hollywood and his fans, serving as a grim reminder of the destructive power of fame and addiction. Olive Thomas, the Ziegfeld Girl. A stunning beauty and one of the original Ziegfeld Foley's girls, she was on the cusp of major stardom. Born on October 20th, 1894, in Charleroi, Pennsylvania, she moved to New York City to pursue a career in modeling and acting. Her beauty quickly caught the eye of Florenz Ziegfeld, and she became one of his famed Ziegfeld girls. Her transition to films was seamless, and she starred in several silent films like The Flapper, 1920, and Everybody's Sweetheart, 1920. However, the pressures of her rapid rise to fame began to weigh on her. She married actor Jack Pickford, the younger brother of silent film star Mary Pickford, but the marriage was fraught with difficulties, including both of them engaging in excessive drinking. In a tragic turn of events, while on a second honeymoon in Paris, she ingested mercury bichloride, a toxic substance. The circumstances remain unclear, but it's widely believed to have been an accident, possibly fueled by her intoxicated state. She died on September 10, 1920, at the age of 25, just as her career was taking off. Her untimely death shocked Hollywood and her fans, and her story serves as a cautionary tale about the perils of fame and the destructive potential of substance abuse. As the spotlight dims on these tragic tales, you might be left wondering, what's the real cost of fame? These stories are not just footnotes in Hollywood history, they're cautionary tales that echo through time, reminding us that stardom has its dark side,